Over the weekend, my bank held my money hostage for 5 days, only 2 business days, not giving it to me for no reason as far as I can see these days. So I deposited a decent-sized check, which the clerk said might take a day or two to clear. So okay, I was dumb, but I scheduled a payment for the next day and a transfer to my exchange the following day, so my balance in that account showed a balance of over $5,000, but for the credit card payment, they paid it, deducted from my balance, but first moved $45 from a linked account, which was insufficient, charged me $535 for the transfer service, then that wasn't sufficient, so they deducted the payment amount from my clearing check anyway, but called it a courtesy payment and charged me a $32.10 overdraft fee, but there was no actual deposit from them into my account. They just called it a courtesy payment to release a portion of my own money to me after they charged me $37.45 ransom and kicked back the Gemini withdrawal, that's where I happen to use right now at the moment, as insufficient funds. And that I'm not very fond of. I wrote them a nice letter. I don't know, I think that's kind of automated. I don't think they care, and today it looks like one went through just fine. But I mean, it's hard not to kind of pull my hair out at that point, you know, and whatever. I mean, I'm over it, and I thought about that could happen, and the next day I went into a bank branch there, it's a credit union, and the poor guy went in and asked the next day, you know, he was just kind of, well, yeah, that'll get returned as insufficient funds. And I just thanked him and left because, I mean, there's nothing I could do but make it worse for myself and give the poor guy stuck at the front counter a hard time. And being ignorant won't fix banking. On top of that, separately, I ordered a Ledger Nano S the other day, and I am pretty excited to get it. But noticed my credit card company charged a $4.98 foreign transaction fee. And, I mean, whatever, but, I mean, it's just the principle of this shit. I mean, I don't dwell on not buying a lot of things at better times and prices, and when I believe the price is rising, I put money into the account, and, you know, then they don't let me touch it for 5 days, but 2 business days, remember? It's 5 days. I mean, I felt like Boris from GoldenEye asking Natalia for the codes and then shrieking later as the satellite burns up, like, give me the codes! Ah! I mean, my gravest of errors seems to be trusting a financial institution with more than a tiny bit of money and thinking I could do with it as I please. And not only is my bank profiting handsomely by holding my own money hostage and charging me a myriad of bogus fees, they are preventing me from doing with my money what I please. I mean, it's not my money when it's in the bank, apparently. I mean, it's theirs, and I guess that's the truth. And, I mean, I don't really care what the price does in the short term. It's like, maybe I want to stick a bunch of money in when Ether's $120 and then it crashes to 80. I don't really care. It's my choice. And I just don't have that ability. And I mean, especially in the crypto space, I mean, we all know how difficult it is to click and send money somewhere electronically. I mean, it's not like we could just send it for pennies anywhere in the world. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Come on. But, I mean, this is exactly why I'm such an enthusiast for cryptos. I mean, the banks kind of pee on your head, tell you it's rain, then demand exorbitant fees for essentially what in any other industry would be horrible service. I mean, this check took a year to deposit in today's rapid world. You know, why is that so hard? There's an electronic routing number, and they knew damn well in less than 5 days, 2 business days, the funds were there, cleared, and ready to go. I mean, I can't wait until this is a horror story I frighten young children with. It's like, in my day, the bank would take $40 to steal your money for 5 days, which set my transactions and fund clearing back a week. It's like, that's ridiculous, you demented old man. And what the hell's a dollar? I mean, but if all my banking little misadventures this weekend are the banking field's definition of customer service, I mean, I think the industry does deserve to get disrupted. So, moving on, as far as Ethereum goes, don't panic sell right now. Maybe it's doing a little dip. I don't know. Maybe it'll pick right back up, but I'm not worried about it. If it does go down, I mean, just sit tight. I mean, Bitcoin's cruising right now too. Sometimes it goes fast and then kind of corrects, or somebody makes a huge order and sells it off and the price dips and then they swoop it up, or however that works. But if Bitcoin goes down, Ethereum will benefit from that, as we've seen in the past. Bitcoin does well, Ethereum does well, Bitcoin does poorly, Ethereum might do a little bit, but Ethereum will benefit from that anyway. So just sit tight, don't sell off your Ethereum or you'll kick yourself down the road. And again, when have we ever seen a high with these that once the price kind of crashes a little bit, even with Bitcoin, I mean, it goes up, it comes down, but in the long term, I mean, the highs are always topped, so if that's what you're concerned about, just sit tight, don't panic sell. I'll put a link to a good video that at the end I thought the guy had some good comments on saying, I mean, if you're trying to out trade the market, you're not going to be able to do it, and the way it moves in percentages and the cost, and I mean, if you're trying to be legal and keep this stuff straight, I mean, you're better to sit on it than buying, selling, and then technically have done a transaction. Like, just buy it, sit on it. I have personally kind of become an Ethereum maximalist, but I do still own a tiny bit of Bitcoin. But that shift was a while in the making. And I just recently started making videos just to add my support and opinion online. You know, like they say about Congress getting a letter for every one person making that effort. There's like 100 with the same opinion just watching. But I always try to keep an open mind and step back. I was all about Bitcoin for a solid like 2 years longer. But, I mean, I kind of came to a realization, and I could be wrong. I don't feel like it. Then again, we never willingly choose to be wrong. But the feeling I have about Ethereum is the feeling I had with Bitcoin. Like, this is a pretty sure thing. The sky's the limit. I want to be all in. I mean, maybe Bitcoin still has room for that. I don't know. But my realization was I started thinking there were some just endemic flaws with Bitcoin, and there are some issues with the network and system, and I first bought Ether at like $8 or $9, and I only bought a couple of them for a long time, and I just thought it was one more altcoin going nowhere. But I did eventually change my mind, and I am glad for it. But I do like to take a step back and critically assess, you know, how am I screwing up here and what could go wrong? And I like the Metallica song lyrics, My Friend of Misery, with the lines, the empty can rattles the most, and hearing only what you want to hear and knowing only what you heard. And I get wary of being in an echo chamber where we're all just praising everything and glad-handing and this will be the future, and I just really think Ethereum passes the scrutiny test as far as my brain can apply to it and has what it takes even if bugs arise in the future. To me, it's the most promising and appealing. And in the past, I've said, I will bail. I mean, I don't have a particular to-the-death loyalty to any of these. I mean, hold stable or go up, yeah, that makes me happy. I mean, just don't, I want to have a stable hedge for inflationary fiat currency. But I'm always in terror of a too-good-to-be-true thing, and I am just not seeing sufficient fault with Ethereum to make me flee right now. I mean, I like the empirical approach. If there's an error, fix or reject, but don't try to bend reality with delusion or rationalization to explain away faults which may be glaring. So I love to see more videos and more people saying anything. If I agree, great. If it's just more information for me, great. If I disagree, even better, because it challenges my current thoughts and makes me think in different ways with new ideas. I love any inputs right now and seeing the expansion of more minds in this field. But as I mentioned, I ordered a Nano S, which I think it's about time I have a hardware wallet. With Bitcoin, the paper wallets were pretty easy to handle. Downloading bitaddress.org to a USB, and then I put that on an offline computer. With Ethereum, what is it, Ether wallet or something, that process just seems to be slightly more time consuming. I haven't seen a good video on how exactly to do that with air gapping, and I'm just ready for the convenience of how this Nano S appears to be. I'm pretty enthusiastic. I'll have to get it here hopefully today or tomorrow or something, give it a test, see how it works firsthand, but it looks pretty slick. But on that hardware wallet note, I'll put some links to a John McAfee video or two discussing security and how, unless you're secured on a hardware device, the security and anonymity can result in helplessness if it's turned against you. Like if someone gets your funds with a crypto, I mean, you're out of luck. And I like how he points out how phones and mobile devices were created to be spies. For your convenience. I mean, where am I at? GPS. It's like tell my friends this or that. What are my preferences? One click on the thing. I mean, that's what they were designed to do. And how the Internet of Things has microwaves, routers, and refrigerators like spying on us and turning against their masters. And I saw a while ago there was some attempt at a Bitcoin mining virus, like harnessing all these little device things, and then maybe, I don't know, I heard that like the CIA could spy on you through your microwave or something. It's like, I don't know, but all those things have little processing powers. And yeah, if a hacker can make them rebel against you on your network and be a keylogger or something, it's like that could be bad news. I also liked him saying with the cryptocurrencies, like Pandora's box got opened and it's impossible to stifle and something is going to happen with them on a large scale. And I liked his comment on saying China is kind of lending credibility to and amassing control over Bitcoin. And look at all the miners going for the cheap power, man. I mean, whatever. And yes, I looked up McAfee's personal bio, and there might be some craziness going on there, but it doesn't make what he said about internet security concerns not true. So that's why I will post them. I agreed with some of the things he said. For anybody interested in the Shift card, that was actually really easy to get. I just logged on to Coinbase, signed in just to be signed in, then went to shiftpayments.com/Coinbase. I clicked the Connect to Coinbase button, and then it was just some data fields, and that was it, and it charged $10 issuance fee out of your Bitcoin or Ethereum wallet, and that was that. I did like some comments on my last video. They brought up some good points and reminded me of some things I haven't really discussed or anything, but I think Ether can be divided so much it could never be overvalued. That was one concern. I don't think it could get to a price too expensive that running the dApps could get too expensive. I'll put another link to a good video. A dude says the various divisions of Ether, and he says you can divide Ether a quintillion times. Like a quintillion is a 1 and then 18 zeros. So basically infinitesimal. I mean, think about buying on an exchange. Once you pass the thousandths, like they don't really affect the price you're paying. And that I'm aware of, I don't think $1 uses more than 1,000ths very often. I see that at gas stations. I imagine financial institutions have it figured out. So let's say, like for argument's sake, that we can divide $1 a million times. So a penny equals 0.01. Gas price you might see goes to 0.001. Banks might go to 0.001. Interest in trading, if it's international finance and compound interest functions or something. I'll say, maybe they go farther, but I'll say 4 zeros and a 1. And then for a sheer hypothetical use, if you're following this, I know I'm getting kind of weird with some math here, but let's just say 5 zeros and a 1. So to achieve that level of worthless took 1 million denominations, which again, the dollars, yeah, the phone likes to ring while I'm trying to make a video, but the dollar's depreciated so much we don't really need many smaller units, but a quintillionth is a 0.17 zeros, then a 1. So that goes pretty worthless, theoretically, and it's not hard to calculate with these cryptos. I mean, that's one of the beauties of them. I mean, they're essentially infinitely divisible. But for math's sake, if 1 Ether equals $100, and we can divide a dollar in this scenario 100 times, if we divide this Ether 100 million times, we'll achieve the same level of worthless, like those two going together. So if 1 Ether equals $1,000, we could divide it 1 billion times to reach that level. If 1 Ether equals 10,000, we could divide it 10 billion times. If 1 Ether equals $100,000 per Ether to the moons of Mars, I mean, we could divide it 100 billion times and have pennies if we wanted. And next comes trillions of times, quadrillions, quintillions, and remember, I went farther with the example. I mean, I really have no clue when we'd use 1/1,000,000th of a dollar. So we could have even more room in there. And I mean, the math just gets ridiculous with these powers of 10s. 10. I mean, basically, to get too expensive, like all of human economic activity forever would have to be condensed into being worth like 1 Ether, and that still wouldn't even be close to being beyond divisibility, assuming there's not like only one piece of 1 Ether in existence. I mean, they can't get too expensive, I don't think. And all of this would be automated if you actually needed to use these denominations. I'll link to a handy video showing Ether units and names for the extremely small units, because humans sometimes do better with names than numbers, especially numbers with 18 digits in them. But bankers don't hand calculate thousandths of a penny by hand. Why would we apply that argument metric to a crypto? You know, like Bitcoin, I'll spend a Satoshi, or I'll set my wallet to terms of millibitcoins or something. Plus, on that thought, I mean, like it or not, I mean, more could be made, even in Bitcoin. If you have a powerful enough majority or controlling authority with any crypto, the code could get manipulated. So if we really needed more or something, it could theoretically happen. And again, don't let that freak you out, because all fiat currencies do that anyway, and these are so much better, and it's so much harder to do that. Again, that's not really a concern that I am worried about. So if you want to shriek up that theoretical tree, go ahead, but I'm not wasting my breath or mental capacity thinking about that. As far as using Ethereum, which I am pretty stoked about, I saw one comment that I'm happy was pointed out. The more we use Ether, the more it gets burned a little bit, and as the volume goes up, and the more people become aware of it, and adoption spreads, and more value converts into Ethereum, and the more the price rises, or the more solid the floors become, so better the stability. Repeat all the past steps, and a virtuous cycle brings good things in good times. But the gas cost is really minuscule and not dependent directly on the price of Ether. We can't make contracts explode, you know, if they were written a year ago and they use X amount of gas, and in the next year the price of Ether doubles, quadruples, whatever you want to insert there. We can't go back and then have that contract just bleeding you horribly. So the gas is kind of independent, and I'll put a link to a good Ether gas video. But yeah, in theory, enough people and enough fraction cent transactions, and the Ethereum network starts to kind of fulfill its destiny as more of these transactions are burning tiny little bits at a time. that could factor in to bring the supply down a little bit. I'm also enthusiastic about spreading the word. I mean, I think cryptos are a win-win, and in the long term, I mean, sometimes the first generations of a new thing sometimes have to have a little more energy than the later adopters or next generation, guaranteed a taken for granted idea, technology, anything. I think the first wave of awareness needs to let as many others know in as many diverse points of contact as we can that this is coming and it's good, it's okay, don't be freaked. It's like, look, it helps everybody. That's kind of why I got a shift card. I mean, it is a conversation piece. I mean, do I really want to be spending my Ethereum? Not necessarily. And then again, for taxes and legality, I mean, technically there's a trade going on there that, I don't know, I'll look into that once I actually have some money and do some transactions that would be worth something. But, I mean, I'm spending a valuable asset. I haven't, I need to adjust some settings yet, so I haven't yet. And I put it to like my Bitcoin wallet, and yeah, I've got to do some fiddling when I get motivated. But that's no fault of Coinbase or Shift Card by any means. I think it is cool, and I have already pulled it out a couple times just to talk about it. But if that means spending some Ethereum at a time I'd rather hoard it, well, so be it. I mean, that helps me down the road anyway. I make sure to make clear to wary others suspicious of my enthusiasm, and I totally get that. If somebody to me was like, hey buddy, I got a new stock you've never heard of, but it'll double next year, put your money in it, I'd be like, right, dude. So I make sure to be laid back, fairly generous, and like try to talk about it, use it, not pushy or judgmental at all. And I generally get positive interest, at least in conversation. I don't know how many people pursue further action, but it's about repeated positive experiences and contacts that win a little effort and investigation out of people. So yeah, I communicate that I'm not getting anything out of this directly by spending my Bitcoin or Ethereum. I mean, one time I did, like, buy some dudes at a bar, like, hey, it's like I cashed out some Bitcoin today. I bought them at the time. I mean, this was a year ago, but like I had bought them at like 300 something, and I cashed out a little portion at like 450 or something. And I was just like telling a couple people, like, hey, I'll buy around. It's like Bitcoin just bought you that beer, man. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not getting anything out of that, but I'm enthusiastic about it. Like, I think it's cool. Like, I just like talking to people about it and be like, check it out. But, yeah, people are usually positive, and, I mean, I don't take it personally or care if you wise up sooner or later, but I'll share as much as I know and help open the door to this nascent but expanding little society of those aware of cryptocurrencies. It's like, I think the more people that know about it is better for everybody. And I'm fairly altruistic, but I wouldn't like secretly burn dollars just to raise the price for everybody else. I mean, I try to spread the word because I do believe everybody wins with cryptos, and broader adoption benefits me too. I mean, I, of course, am personally partial to Ethereum, but I view anybody supporting any coin as kind of a fellow traveler on this journey into the future. For some people that I have heard say cryptos aren't real money and there's nothing there, I mean, take a look at any fiat currency. I mean, it's faith, not even an encoded little piece of information. The only difference in one sense with a crypto like Ether, I mean, each token isn't a symbol of trillions of units of value and debt. In one sense, I mean, trading $100 for one Ether, like, in one sense, I just made $20 trillion on that deal. It's like, that's a pretty good deal if you think of it in that term. But if you look at the states, and I mean, look at Puerto Rico just a couple days ago, if you're following that, I mean, that could be the biggest default ever at $123 billion, like after Detroit's $18 billion in 2003. I mean, it's a lot bigger. And California right now is some $450 billion in debt. New York 350 billion, Illinois 150, and Wyoming, looking at the little charts I looked at, even 3 years ago wasn't even a billion. Now it's over 2. So like the rate of that debt is going up too. I mean, it's blowing up in the last 3 years. California went up $300 billion in debt, and New York is plus 200 billion, Illinois plus 100 billion. And this isn't esoteric hidden financial data. I mean, just do a quick search and you'll see all of it out in the open. I mean, gold historically has been moving to the east. There are some scenarios where China and or Russia put a gold-backed currency out. Now we've got cryptos, which could act similarly. Like a couple dominoes fall, and the world economy could really take a hit. It's like, I'm not too far out there with radical theories, but the math shows the situation is pretty pathetic. And nobody even pretends to think it will get fixed. Like, nobody wants to talk about it, but it's not going away. And, I mean, I hate any kind of fear-mongering, but on some level, I mean, it's just common sense. I'd also say that pretty much every, like, social issue is kind of dependent on sound money. I mean, and freedom to exercise choice with your money. If the money is unsustainable, I mean, a lot of different kinds of gains could be lost. I'm getting in the weeds with some complicated financial issues that I don't fully understand, but I mean, the Fed can pretty much only inflate to increase money supply these days. And for people getting defensive about our dollar, I mean, yeah, sometimes I do have, you know, moments where it's like, this is weird just thinking this or saying it, but I mean, I love the dollar and I hope it the best, most wonderful things, and I hope the economy comes around and everything's great. But, I mean, something, I don't know what, but something weird could happen. I mean, there are a lot of different scenarios out there, and I mentioned before the book Currency Wars by James Rickards. That guy laid out some realistic possibilities, and not all of them scary, but reality usually does something weird no logical person could perfectly predict. And as far as our dollar, I mean, who votes for the Fed board or chairman? I mean, if they control the dollar, is it really our dollar? But I'm kind of getting off the rails here. So with that, until next time.